What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and you're watching our college football channel. In this video I'm going to give you my projections for what the rankings are going to look like tomorrow, what the teams are going to look like, who's going to be in the playoff, who's going to be in the New Year's Six Bowls. I pulled away during halftime of the Big Ten and the ACC championship games to do this video. But you know, a lot of football left in those two games, but it feels like Clemson probably going to win. I think Michigan will be fine as well as they play in the second half. They probably will take care of business against Purdue, and so we're going to assume those two things happen, at least for this video's sake. I actually forgot to do my New Year's Six projections this past week. I meant to do them in the same video as my playoff projections, but I just forgot. So we're going to go through all of that. I'll give you a quick reaction here to what's happened here on Conference Championship weekend. Of course, USC going down last night. I thought USC would win that game. You know, there has been a real jinx this year. If you've been following the channel, there has been a real jinx. I mean, how many times have I hesitated? I've waited on a team. I haven't fully believed, okay, that this team is going to make the playoff. And then finally, I changed my mind and I put them in there and then they lose. Or however it's happened. You know, Tennessee, right when I picked them to win the national championship, they go out and lose to Georgia. You know, I can't even remember how many times it happened. I had been picking Michigan to beat Ohio State all year pretty much. I finally picked Ohio State. Michigan won. USC, we put them into the playoff. They lose. Oregon, I put them in the playoff. They lost the next week. So there's been a real jinx this year, and USC was just the last team to fall victim of that. With Caleb Williams, if he had stayed healthy in that game, you have to wonder how it would have gone. But Utah just came to play, and that's a good team, a well-coached team. I'm really impressed with Utah last night. Earlier today, TCU, Kansas State, great game. Thought that one would come down to the wire one way or the other. You got to give TCU a lot of credit, the way they fought, especially Max Duggan at the end. You know, he'd probably have my Heisman vote, even though they didn't win that game. Really just impressed with his toughness and bringing them back. But Kansas State made the plays on the goal line. They made the stop in overtime, got the win, potentially knocking TCU from that number 3 spot. I'm going to give you, again, my projection here in just a second. Georgia looked really good, although their pass defense, not great in that game against LSU. You have to wonder if they get up against a really good quarterback in the playoff. Could we see a team possibly put up some points on them? How about Tulane? Give them credit for beating UCF, and they will now go to a New Year's Six Bowl. So we'll run through, and again, I'll give you my projections for what I think the committee is going to do for tomorrow morning, who's going to be in the playoff, who's going to be in the New Year's Six. And if you guys have followed along really for the last several years, you know, I'm not just, you know, I spent a lot of time studying what the committee has done, and it changes year to year, of course, and I feel confident in my projections here. We'll see what happens. But I do want to tell you about a new gaming channel we've got. If you like NCAA football gaming content, or you know, other sports gaming, we do have a brand new gaming channel. I just started this a few weeks ago, easing into it, but once we get through the college football season, then I'm going to really start putting a lot of content on this channel. So make sure you check it out and subscribe if you like that gaming type content. I just wanted to quickly tell you about that. But now we will get into the projection. So I'm not going to give you the full top 25. Really not much is going to change. Watch for potentially Troy to make their debut into the top 25. Only 2 losses. They're a conference champion. That could be enough to get them in there. But everything else, you know, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going to happen. And it really doesn't matter. I mean, the rankings don't matter except for the top 4. And I think the New Year's Six are set. And really, again, regardless of how the rankings come out. So let's get right into it here. I think Georgia will be the number 1 seed. I think there is no doubt about that. I don't care if Michigan comes back and wins by 30. Georgia, really impressive offensively against LSU today, putting up 50 points. They were already number 1. They're going to stay number 1. And really, regardless of what does happen in the second half with Michigan and Purdue, Michigan's going to be the 2 seed. It doesn't matter if they lose that game. There's no one that's going to come up and take that spot from them. So Michigan's safely the number 2 seed, in my opinion. I mean, I feel very, 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 very confident in the number 1 and the number 2 team. 3 and 4, I feel very confident on who those 2 teams will be. As far as the order goes, I'd say I'm 80% confident. So we're talking about TCU that lost today. We're talking about Ohio State. And we're talking about Alabama. I think USC is out of this conversation. You could make the argument that they were already number 4. They played an extra game. Why should they be penalized? Why should a team that sits at home jump ahead of them? You know, you look at Alabama, you look at Ohio State, they didn't play. Would it be fair for them to jump USC when USC had to play a conference championship game? And I totally buy that argument. I know everyone's going to disagree with me, but I'd rather see Utah and Kansas State at 3 and 4. I think that's who should be in the playoff. I've always said that I believe conference champions should be in the playoff. You should have to win your conference. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but that's just my personal take. You know, to me, you go through each conference, you win your conference. That's how you get in. And next year, or in 2 years, when we have the 12-team playoff, those teams will get a bye. Think about this for a second. Now, Clemson, I guess, would probably, if they take care of business, they would have a bye. But whoever was ranked higher, Kansas State or Utah, and probably Kansas State would have a bye. They would be a top 4 team in a 12-team playoff. So think about that for a second. And if Clemson were to lose to North Carolina, then Utah would also get a bye. That's going to be crazy when we get to that 12-team playoff. But anyways, you can make an argument there. I don't think that you're going to win that argument with the committee. I think USC is out. We've seen it before. Go back to, I believe, 2017, Alabama. They had 1 loss. They did not play in the SEC championship, and they still made the college football playoff. So, you know, we've seen it before. You know, Auburn was ranked in the top 4. They lost. They went out, and Alabama moved in. I can't remember now if Alabama was already maybe at 4, or maybe they were 5 and they moved up 1 spot. I can't remember the exact rankings that year. But anyways, USC I think is out, especially the way they lost. The committee has really been penalizing teams for losing by a lot of points. So I think USC is done. So then you've got TCU, Ohio State, and Alabama. We'll compare Ohio State and TCU here. I think the resumes are very similar. Ohio State has maybe you know, do they have the better win with Penn State? Because TCU has one over Kansas State, and Kansas State's going to be ranked in the top 10 as well. So I think there's an argument there. The resumes are pretty similar, but I think, again, what the committee has valued this year, close losses. They have really rewarded teams for close losses. They've penalized teams for bad losses or just by losing by a lot. And because of that, and because of the fact that TCU went to overtime against a top 10 team, a team that they have already beaten, you know, they've beaten everyone on their schedule, I think TCU stays at 3. And I feel, again, 80% confident that TCU will be at number 3. And then you've got Ohio State and Alabama. And look, Ohio State was already ahead of Alabama. There's no reason for this to change. Buckeyes are in. Ohio State will be number 4. And like I said, 80% confident that that's how it's going to go down. There is, you know, that other 20% of me thinks that maybe Ohio State will be 3, TCU will be 4. I don't really think they're going to do that. There is, though, I mean, think about this for a second. Several weeks ago, back when Alabama only had 1 loss, remember, a 1-loss Alabama was ahead of an undefeated TCU. Could a 2-loss Alabama be ahead of a 1-loss TCU? So if the committee really decides to penalize TCU here, what you're going to see is Ohio State at 3, Alabama at 4. I do not believe they will do that. I just do not think this is the same as 2017. Alabama, look, 2 losses. The resume's not great. TCU, I think, has a better resume, and they only have the 1 loss. And now you can look at this loss and say it was really close. It was an overtime loss. That, in my opinion, should be enough. So I believe TCU will be at 3, and Ohio State will be at 4. And how about that matchup there, Georgia and Ohio State? I cannot wait for that one. And like I said, I still feel pretty confident, about 80% sure that this is what it's going to look like tomorrow. If there are any surprises, I will probably do a reaction video, but assuming everything goes the way I'm showing it in this video, probably won't do a video tomorrow. I know everyone will be watching ESPN and all of that. But if we get something crazy, I'll be on here. I will do a reaction, and we'll really dissect the committee if they do make a mistake and get it wrong. So let's move to the other New Year's Six Bowls, because I believe that these are, I guess I'm like 99% sure on all of these. I don't see why any of them would be any different. And like I've talked about this now for several weeks, there's not going to be a lot of drama with the New Year's Six because there's only 1 at-large spot. Every other bowl has a conference tie-in, so we really already know assuming these are the 4 playoff teams, and they could be in any order, the other New Year's Six bowls will look like this. We will see Penn State and Utah in the Rose Bowl. Utah will be there because they won the Pac-12 championship, so no doubt about them. And no one's going to be close to the rankings. You know, Penn State. The only thing that could change here is if Purdue were to beat Michigan, and I don't believe that's going to happen. Looks like, as I look at the score, the second half's already started, and Michigan got a touchdown. So, I mean, Penn State's going to be here unless Purdue pulls off a shocker. If that happens, then Purdue would be here. But Penn State, Utah in the Rose Bowl, second straight year for the Utes, and this should be a fun one. I really look forward to this matchup that we're going to get here. And then in the Sugar Bowl, I'm looking forward to this one. Alabama and Kansas State. Remember Alabama when they played Utah back, I don't even remember what year it was, like 08 or no, 09 maybe. I think it was 08 is what I want to say. And they went to the Sugar Bowl and they played Utah and they didn't really want to be there and they lost. I could see that happening again here, especially if Bryce Young and Will Anderson don't play for Alabama. This is a good Kansas State team, and they'll come motivated and ready to play. And this is what we're going to get. We know Kansas State is here because they won the Big 12. We know Alabama is here because they're going to be the highest-ranked SEC team outside of the top 4. Unless the committee just decides to switch it up and put Tennessee ahead of Alabama because of the head-to-head. But nothing's changed since last week, so I don't know why they would do that. So Bama, Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. Interesting matchup there. So the Orange Bowl should be Clemson, assuming they win the ACC championship game against North Carolina. And then Tennessee will be the highest-ranked SEC or Big Ten team. And again, this one, it's pretty obvious here. I don't really see any other way you could go with this. Clemson, and I'm looking at my phone, looks like Clemson scored again. So Clemson will be here. Clemson in the Orange Bowl versus Tennessee. You get 2 orange teams in the Orange Bowl. That's interesting. And this is the matchup that we pretty much already were expecting. And then that leaves the Cotton Bowl. Tulane will be there. They will be the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. And then USC, I believe, I mean, they're at 4 coming into this week. They should not fall below any of these other teams. So we will see the Trojans, USC, not make the playoff, but still a chance to go to a New Year's Six Bowl here in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane. So that's what I believe it will look like tomorrow morning. Or tomorrow afternoon, whenever they actually, I know the show comes on at 12 Eastern time. I think maybe they wait like an hour normally to actually reveal the teams, but I don't expect any drama. I feel very confident that the playoff is going to, and let me go back and show you again. This is what the playoff, I believe, is going to look like tomorrow. I know a lot of people are talking about Alabama. It's not going to happen. They have 2 losses. They're not going to get in. The committee has never put a 2-loss team in, and they're not even a conference champion, and they don't even have a better resume than TCU. So if they do that, then something's wrong. I mean, something is wrong, and they're going for TV ratings. But could you imagine the ratings if you had Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama in the semifinals? I mean, that, as a fan, that would actually be pretty great to see those 2 matchups. But TCU deserves it, and TCU will get it. They'll be in. I feel very confident about that. Your thoughts? How do you think it's going to look tomorrow? Anything different than what I showed you here? It's been a great season. Cannot wait to start looking into these playoff matchups and breaking them down. And we'll have lots of other videos coming up the next couple of weeks leading up to the bowl games and the playoff and all of that. And then if you're new to this, I don't take any time off. We jump right into it. We start previewing the next season right when this season ends. We'll do a way too early top 25 poll probably the day after the national championship, and then we'll start to kind of recap some things, and we'll actually do that here over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go back and recap my predictions and see how terrible they were, or maybe in some cases how good they were. Some were good, some were bad, and we'll be going over all of that. Thank you so much for watching all season long. Hopefully you guys will stick with me. Again, a lot of content coming up, and I'm going to try to really do a better job this off season, getting you set, getting this season, getting you previewed for next season. Again, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.